The Sith. Love 'em or hate 'em, they are the most iconic villains in cinema history. Ever imagined being one of them? Well, let's try it. Usually, that confidence lasts about as long as a stormtrooper's aim. In this video, we're taking a real look at why you, just an ordinary person, wouldn't last a single day as a Sith. Spoiler, it doesn't go well. So grab that red lightsaber, throw on the black robe, and try not to choke anyone on the way. Welcome to your new life as Darth Vader. Step 1, wake up. Step 2, remember you're 70% machine, 30% trauma, and 100% not a morning person. You wake up, put the mask on, and the first thing you hear is your own breathing. Honestly, the perfect alarm clock, because you can't hit snooze on your own life support system. It's the sound of a portable iron lung working overtime, because your actual lungs are literally cooked thanks to the fiasco on Mustafar. That sound is your constant companion. Before you even stand up, you take a moment to wonder if you actually slept. Hard to say. When you're Darth Vader, sleep is more like shutting down in anger for a few hours and rebooting with slightly more anger. Now, the suit. This isn't advanced armor. This is a mobile life support prison. Palpatine didn't have the galaxy's best cyberneticists build this thing for comfort. He had it built for control. Every piece of it is designed with a purpose, to keep you alive, in constant pain, and utterly dependent. The suit's joints are deliberately stiff, making movement a deliberate, effortful act. It's heavy, weighing hundreds of pounds, so you're always fighting gravity just to walk. Because that struggle, that constant exertion, feeds frustration. Frustration feeds anger, and anger is the fuel Palpatine wants you burning. The cybernetics connecting to your limbs, what's left of them, aren't seamless. They're raw. They translate your neural impulses into motion, but the feedback is crude. You have the strength to crush Durasteel, but you'd lack the fine motor control to, say, pick up a delicate piece of art without crushing it. Imagine the phantom itch on a leg that isn't there, but you can't scratch it because your prosthetic leg is a solid piece of plasteel. The suit also has these weak points, these control panels on the chest. They're vulnerable. You know it, your enemies know it. So there's this underlying layer of anxiety, even for someone as powerful as Vader. One lucky shot from a blaster, and your breathing apparatus fails. The suit is both your cage and your life preserver, and you can never, ever take it off. Let's talk about the origin story, because this is where the why gets brutally clear. Anakin Skywalker didn't fall out of the sky one day and land in that suit. This was a slow-motion train wreck. The Jedi, for all their wisdom, failed him spectacularly. They took this traumatized kid from slavery, told him he was special, but then immediately burdened him with rules that went against his very nature. No attachments? This was a boy who loved his mother so deeply, her murder would later trigger a genocide. They gave him a father figure in Obi-Wan, but also a hierarchy that kept him feeling like an outsider, the chosen one, who was constantly being told to sit down and be patient. Enter Palpatine. Here's this charming, powerful politician who actually listens. He tells Anakin what he wants to hear, that his powers should entitle him to more, that his fears for Padme are valid, that the Jedi are holding him back. It's classic grooming. Palpatine isolates him, validates his darkest emotions, and then offers a solution, the dark side. It's presented as a tool, a shortcut to save Padme, and in his desperation, Anakin grabs it. But the dark side is the ultimate liar. It's a monkey's paw. You get what you ask for, but in the most twisted way possible. Anakin wanted power to save Padme from death. His first act as a Sith Lord, force choking her. He's trying to build a new world, a safe world for her, by becoming the very monster that would terrify her. The irony is so thick you could cut it with a lightsaber. He betrays everyone, including his master Obi-Wan. And what's his reward for this ultimate act of loyalty? He gets cut down by his brother, left burning alive on a river of lava. This is the crucial moment. Palpatine doesn't save Anakin out of love. He salvages a useful asset. The suit isn't a gift, it's a down payment on a soul that's already been purchased. The man named Anakin Skywalker is legally, spiritually, and physically declared dead. Now fast forward 20 years. What's the job like? Terrible. You're the Galactic Empire's head of intimidation. Your office is the bridge of a Star Destroyer. Your daily tasks involve reviewing fear quotas, overseeing the crushing of dissent, and hunting down the last remnants of the Jedi, who are all but extinct. It's mind-numbingly bureaucratic evil. You're not crafting grand schemes, You're enforcing the dull, grinding machinery of tyranny. Your co-workers? They're terrified of you. Admiral Ozzel makes a tactical error coming out of lightspeed too close to Hoth. You don't send a stern email. You choke him to death remotely during a staff meeting as a lesson to General Veers. You cultivate an environment where the fear of failing you is greater than the fear of failing the mission. This is no way to run a business. It's why the Empire is so inefficient. No one dares to think creatively, to take initiative, because a creative mistake gets you killed. So everyone plays it safe, which leads to more failures, which leads to more force chokings. It's a vicious, stupid cycle. And your home life? Non-existent. Your castle on Mustafar isn't a home. It's a shrine to your own suffering. You built it on the spot where you died for Star's sake. You meditate in a chamber that amplifies the dark side, reliving your pain to draw power from it. Your only companions are a handful of terrified servants, and maybe a Sith archaeologist you force to hunt down relics for you. Your boss checks in only to give orders or to mock you for your failures. The Force is with you, young Skywalker, but you are not a Jedi yet. Imagine your CEO showing up just to subtly remind you of your greatest professional humiliation in front of your subordinates. That's Palpatine's idea of management. Here's the deep-cut lore that really twists the knife. Vader knew he was trapped. Novels and comics show his inner monologue. He's constantly aware of the prison of the suit. He hates the sound of his own breathing. He experiments secretly, trying to modify his armor to be less painful or more powerful. He even builds his own lightsaber, a ritual that's deeply personal in a futile attempt to reclaim some shred of identity. He's endlessly searching the galaxy for a way to overthrow Palpatine, not for the good of the galaxy, but because it's the only goal left that gives his miserable existence any direction. He's the ultimate attack dog, dreaming of killing its master, but with no idea what it would do with freedom afterward. Then Luke Skywalker drops into his life. This kid, this reckless, earnest boy from Tatooine, becomes an impossibility. He's a spark in the vast, dark void of Vader's existence. And he's not afraid. He doesn't see the monster first. He senses the man trapped inside. He calls him father. That word shatters decades of carefully cultivated hate. Vader's entire worldview, the dark side logic that has sustained his pain-fueled existence for 20 years, is built on the lie that Anakin Skywalker is dead, that he destroyed him. The father is still in there, buried under mountains of regret and machinery. The final confrontation on the Death Star was a man trying to drag his son down into the pit with him, because it's the only reality he knows. Give yourself to the dark side. It is the only way you can save your friends. He's replaying his own corruption, step by step. But Luke refuses. He throws away his lightsaber. He chooses compassion, the very thing the Jedi were supposed to represent, but failed to fully teach his father. And when Palpatine starts torturing Luke to death with lightning, Vader, not Anakin, not yet, is faced with a choice. Watch this last pure piece of Padme die, or act. And in that moment, he doesn't act for power. He doesn't act for the dark side. He acts for love. The very emotion that started his fall becomes his redemption. He picks up the Emperor and throws him down a reactor shaft, knowing the lightning will critically damage his own life support. He's choosing to die to save his son. His last request? To look at Luke with his own eyes, to see his son not through the red-tinted lens of his helmet, but as a human being. When Luke removes that helmet, we see a pale, scarred, broken old man, not a monster, a man who has been in agony for 2 decades. His first unassisted breath is a gasp of free air, and his last sight is his son's face. Anakin Skywalker dies free, but only after enduring a life sentence as Darth Vader. So, you think you could last a day? From the moment your systems boot up to the sound of your own mechanical suffering, you're in a body that's a tomb. You serve a master who delights in your pain. Your work is a soul-crushing exercise in fear-mongering, and your entire existence is a warning. This is what happens when you trade your humanity for a promise of power. The suit isn't cool, it's a life support system for a ghost, and Vader had it good compared to what comes next. Because his boss, the guy who put him in that suit, his story makes Vader's look like a weekend retreat. Alright, so we survived the tour of Vader's personal hell, a boss who's basically the devil. You'd think, well, at least the guy at the top has it good, right? He's the one giving the orders. He's got the fancy office, the unlimited power. He's living the dream. Oh, my friend, no. you would last even less time as Darth Sidious. If Vader's existence is a prison of the body, Sidious's is a prison of the soul, so deep and dark it makes a black hole look cozy. First, forget any idea of a work-life balance. You don't have a life, you are the job. Your entire identity, for decades, is a lie so intricate and vast it could give a spider vertigo. You start off as Senator Sheev Palpatine of Naboo. Charming, mild-mannered, a bit of a bureaucrat. That's the mask. Behind it, you are Darth Sidious, a Sith Lord who has been plotting the downfall of the Republic and the Jedi Order since before your grandparents were born. Imagine maintaining this double life, where one half of you runs a galactic government and the other half is devoted to an ancient religion of hatred. You have to be on every single second of every single day for 50 years. One wrong Force sense, one moment of dropped pretense in front of a Jedi like Yoda or Mace Windu, and it's all over. The stress alone would give a normal person a permanent nervous twitch. But Sidious isn't stressed. That's the terrifying part. He enjoys it. The deception is the point. The Sith had been in hiding for 1,000 years, since Darth Bane created the Rule of Two. One master to embody power, one apprentice to crave it. They operated from the shadows, festering. Sidious is the ultimate product of that millennia-long grudge. His entire existence is a patient, malicious art project. He's not building an empire for the tax benefits. He's creating a galaxy-sized monument to the dark side. Every war, every political crisis, every bit of suffering he engineers is a brushstroke on his canvas. Think about his daily routine. As Chancellor, he's presiding over a Senate that's a gridlocked mess of self-interest, which he secretly fostered. He's listening to debates he orchestrated, feigning concern over crises he created, and offering solutions that further his own plan. It's like being a playwright who's also the lead actor, the director, and the guy selling tickets, all while convincing the audience the play is real. The mental gymnastics are Olympian. He's simultaneously managing the public face of the Republic, the secret separatist movement on the side, the training of his apprentice Darth Maul, and later Dooku, and the careful corruption of Anakin Skywalker. His brain must look like the schematics for the Death Star, just constantly whirring. And what does he get out of it? What's the payoff? He gets a sterile, silent throne room on a battle station that smells like ozone and fear. He gets to wear robes that look like he looted a funeral home. He rules through a military junta of yes men and terror. He has no friends. He has tools and victims. His apprentice is a horrifically burned cyborg he keeps in line through a combination of psychological torture and the off switch on his life support. His idea of fun is torturing rebels with lightning until they scream. His palate is so corrupted by the dark side that according to some law, everything tastes like ash to him. He can't enjoy a simple meal. The pursuit of power has burned away his ability to experience any simple pleasure. Let's talk about the physical cost, because we saw what he became. The wise Chancellor Palpatine was a facade maintained by the dark side. The real Sidious was a withered, corpse-like creature hiding under a hood. The moment he drops the axe and fights Mace Windu, the energy of the dark side, all that bottled-up hatred and evil, surges through him and literally disfigures him. The yellow eyes, the sunken face, the voice like grinding rocks. That's not a mask. That's his soul showing up for work. You become what you feed. He's been feeding on anger, hatred, and suffering for so long. His body has metabolized it into his actual face. His true form is a monster. Imagine looking in the mirror and seeing the physical manifestation of every cruel thought, every murder, every betrayal staring back at you. That's his reality. His philosophy is the real killer, though. This is a man who believes in nothing but power, not family, not legacy, not even a coherent political ideology beyond control. The Republic, the Empire, they're just vehicles. He'd burn it all down for a chance at more power. In the novelizations, his inner thoughts reveal a being of pure, chilling nihilism. He sees the entire galaxy as a source of energy to be consumed. Planets, people, stars, they're just batteries for the dark side. He wants to live forever, not to enjoy life, but to dominate it eternally. His ultimate goal, hinted at in deeper lore, was to essentially become a dark side god, unkillable, rewriting reality itself. That's not ambition, that's a cosmic level addiction. and the isolation is absolute. Vader had moments of conflict, of memory. Sidious has scrubbed his past clean. Sheev Palpatine is a costume. Any person he might have been is gone, sacrificed on the altar of his own ambition. He can't trust anyone, because the rule of two dictates his apprentice must one day try to kill him. So every relationship in his life is a student-teacher dynamic with an expiry date of murder. He mentors Dooku, but views him as a placeholder. He grooms Anakin, but sees him as a broken tool to be used and discarded. There's no loyalty, no affection. It's a universe of objects, and he's the only subject. Even his victories are hollow. He wins. He destroys the Jedi, crowns himself Emperor, rules the galaxy. And what does he do? He sits on a throne, in the dark. He's achieved everything he ever wanted. And the result is a silent room. The thrill was in the chase, in the corruption, in the manipulation. The actual having of power is boring. So he starts building a bigger Death Star. He engineers his own kidnapping to lure the rebels. He's like a drug addict who needs bigger and bigger doses just to feel anything at all. His empire is crumbling around him due to his own obsessive, over-centralized, fear-based management style, and he's too busy trying to turn Luke Skywalker to the dark side to notice, because that's the only game left that interests him. And then he dies, thrown down a reactor shaft by his own broken apprentice, a tool he thought he'd broken beyond repair. The grand plan, the 1,000-year Sith patience, ends with a surprise scream and a fall. Even his returns in later stories, cloning, essence transfer, are pathetic, grotesque attempts to cling to existence. He's a ghost haunting the machine of his own ambition, a corpse puppeteering other corpses. So, you think you could last a day as Sidious? You have to manipulate senators, command generals, torment your apprentice, and meditate on ancient rituals of hatred, all before lunch. You can't enjoy a sunset, a good laugh, a moment of quiet that isn't plotting. Your face is a horror show. Your heart, if you still have one, is a frozen lump of ambition. You're the most powerful being in the galaxy, and your world is smaller, darker, and lonelier than a prison cell. You've won the game by setting the board on fire and calling the ashes a kingdom. Vader's hell was physical. Sidious's hell is that he got everything he ever wanted, and it was nothing. And if you think his apprenticeship program is bad, wait until you meet the guys who don't even get a fancy title or a throne, the ones who are just pure unleashed weapons. Like our next subject, a guy whose bad day didn't end with a suit. It ended with him getting cut in half and thrown down a bottomless pit. Let me introduce you to Darth Maul, and let me be clear, Maul's story is the fastest way to understand that in the Sith hierarchy, you are not a person. You are a bullet, and bullets are meant to be fired once at a target. What happens to the bullet after it hits? Nobody cares. We have to start at the very beginning, and I mean the very beginning, because Maul's corruption starts in the cradle. He wasn't a fallen Jedi, a disillusioned knight like some others. He was born on Dathomir, a planet steeped in the dark side. He was taken as an infant. Let's be clear, taken. This wasn't a recruitment, it was an acquisition. Sidious saw a child with immense latent power and a connection to a useful dark side tradition, and he removed him from his family, his culture, everything. Imagine the training. We're not talking about Jedi younglings learning to meditate and lift rocks. We're talking about a dungeon, literal darkness, pain as a teaching tool, hunger as a motivator. Sidious, according to lore from books like Darth Plagueis and the Darth Maul comics, systematically broke down any sense of self that wasn't tied to hatred, obedience, and combat prowess. Maul was taught languages, yes, but only to understand his targets. He was taught piloting and mechanics, but only to operate weapons and infiltrate. His education was a missiles guidance system, not a scholar's library. He wasn't taught Sith philosophy in the grand political sense Sidious knew. He was taught dogma. The Jedi are weak. They are the enemy. Your purpose is to destroy them. His identity was built on a foundation of pure, weaponized anger. He wasn't Darth Maul, a person with a history. He was Maul, a designation for a living weapon system. His iconic tattoos, they're a ritualistic marking, a branding. They signify his total dedication, his separation from the normal world. He was a ghost before he ever threw a punch. So your first day as Darth Maul, you wake up not with dreams, but with drills. Your body is a coiled spring of muscle and tension maintained at peak lethality. Your mind is a quiet, focused kill list. You have no hobbies, no favourite food, no friends. Your world is your master's will, and your quarters are a monk's cell on a ship or in some forgotten sublevel of Coruscant. The only love you've ever known is the approval Sidious shows when you execute a technique perfectly or endure punishment without crying out. It's the affection a master swordsmith shows a perfectly tempered blade. It's not personal. It's about the quality of the product. Now, let's talk about the debut, the Naboo incident. This is the moment his entire life has been pointed toward. For Sidious, it's a complex political maneuver, the first move in a decades-long chess game. For Maul, it's simple. Find Jedi, kill Jedi. He's unleashed with the precision of a guided torpedo, and he's magnificent at his job. And then, in a heartbeat, it's over. Obi-Wan's desperate leap, a move born of panic and grief, cuts Maul's saber in half, and then cuts Maul in half. Here is the single most important thing Sidious does next. Nothing. He doesn't grieve, he doesn't rage, he doesn't send a single probe droid down that shaft. From his perspective on the command ship, the weapon served its primary purpose. It revealed the Sith's return, killed a Jedi Master, and catalyzed the crisis. It is therefore obsolete. He literally turns to his new political apprentice, Darth Tyranus, Count Dooku, and moves on. Maul is less than a memory. He's an item crossed off a list. But Maul doesn't die. This is where his unique hell truly begins. The dark side, fueled by his unparalleled hatred and his Night Sister heritage, a magic that deals in spirits and essence transfer, keeps his ruined body alive. He falls through miles of Naboo's core, eventually ejected as garbage onto the junk planet Lotho Minor. What follows is a decade of existence, so horrifying it's almost poetic. He is not a man, he is a wounded animal. His legs are gone. He's delirious with pain, surviving on insects and run-off water, scuttling through tunnels of trash. His mind, already built on a narrow platform of rage, shatters entirely. The coherent weapon is gone, replaced by a phantom, a whispering, shrieking thing obsessed with one name, Kenobi. He builds a nightmarish mechanical lower body from scrap, a spidery, clattering contraption that lets him move but is a constant torment. He is, in every sense, a monster in a labyrinth of his own defeat. You are literal, sentient garbage, forgotten by the galaxy and the master who made you. Your great victory is being the punchline to a story about a Padawan's lucky break. He's eventually found, years later, by his brother Savage Opress, another Night Sister weapon sent to find him. They pieces him back together, both physically and mentally, using dark side magics and advanced cybernetics. But fixed is a strong word. Maul is reassembled, not healed. He is a patchwork of trauma, cybernetics, and burning singular obsession. And what does he do with his second act? He doesn't seek the Sith throne. He doesn't want Sidious's empire. He wants one thing, and one thing only, revenge. His entire resurrection is a tantrum of cosmic proportions. He builds the Shadow Collective, a criminal syndicate of gangs, pirates, and Mandalorians. Not to rule the galaxy, but to have the resources to find Kenobi, to hurt him, to make him feel a fraction of the agony Maul has endured. He becomes a king of the underworld, but he sits on a throne of pure spite. This is the core of why you couldn't last a day as Maul, especially in this phase. His existence is a feedback loop of pain. Every action he takes, every planet he conquers, every underling he commands, is a means to an end that is itself empty. He kills Duchess Satin Kryze, the woman Obi-Wan loved, right in front of him on Mandalore. Does it bring him peace? Does it fill the void? No. It just leaves him standing in a throne room with another corpse, the hole inside him still gaping. His relationship with his brother Savage is a twisted mirror of the Sith master-apprentice dynamic. He trains Savage, but not to succeed him. He trains him as a weapon, an extension of his own will, just as Sidious did to him. He emotionally manipulates him, uses his loyalty, and ultimately gets him killed by Sidious. He repeats the cycle of abuse that created him. He becomes, in a fractured way, what he hated. Even his later years, after the fall of the Republic, are a study in pathetic decline. He loses everything. His syndicate, his power, his purpose. He becomes a hermit on the desert world of Malachor, clinging to a Sith holocron, seeking visions of the future. He's no longer a player, he's a spectator to the galaxy's suffering. And what does he see? He learns that Obi-Wan is alive, hiding, and protecting a hope that can destroy Sidious. This leads to his final, heartbreaking end on Tatooine. He finds old Ben Kenobi, 3 moves, and it's over in seconds. Kenobi uses the same opening stance Qui-Gon used, and Maul, reflexively, takes the same killing stance. But Kenobi adapts and ends it. Maul is defeated. By time, by change, by the fact that Kenobi evolved while Maul remained trapped in that moment in the reactor shaft. Is it the chosen one? When Kenobi says yes, Maul's final breath holds a sliver of peace. He will avenge us. So, could you last a day as Darth Maul? In the beginning, you'd be a prisoner in a hyper-lethal body. Your mind a blank slate for another man's hatred, with no past and no future beyond the next mission. In the middle, you'd be a conscious, screaming wound in the Force, dragging yourself through a universe that moved on without you. Every moment of physical and mental agony, driven by an obsession that eats you from the inside. At the end, you'd be a forgotten relic, seeking meaning in the dust, finding it only in your own imminent death. Maul's story tells you the Sith don't create partners. They don't create successors. They create exquisitely crafted instruments of pain. And when the job is done, or the instrument breaks, it is thrown into the garbage. And the garbage sometimes has to live with that. If that sounds like a career with good long-term benefits, then maybe you're Sith material. But if the idea of being groomed, used, shattered and discarded like a used fuel cell sounds even slightly unappealing, you're getting the real picture. And speaking of polished, refined tools who thought they were partners, our next subject is the ultimate example of Sith bait and switch. A man who had it all and traded it for a fancy title and a quick death. Let's talk about the gentleman Sith, Count Dooku. If Maul is the story of a weapon thrown away, then Count Dooku is the story of a masterpiece painting, carefully purchased, hung in a place of honor, and then used as kindling to start a bigger fire. This is about the Sith con for the elite, for the guy who thinks he's too smart, too principled, too aristocratic to fall for the usual traps. Spoiler, he wasn't. Let's set the stage properly. Dooku didn't start as some backworld punk with anger issues. He was Jedi royalty, a literal Count of Sereno from one of the galaxy's wealthiest planets. He was a Jedi Master on the Council, trained by Yoda himself. His own Padawan was Qui-Gon Jinn, a maverick, sure, but a deeply moral one. Dooku was the intellectual, the philosopher king, the one who saw the Republic's bureaucracy and corruption and winced. He left the Order not in a rage, but in a principled, disgusted huff. He thought he was above it all, and that right there is the hook Sidious used. He didn't offer Dooku raw power or revenge. He offered him a partnership, a chance to fix what was broken. The title he gave him, Darth Tyranus, even sounds refined, menacing in a classical way. Sidious presented the whole scheme not as a grab for personal power, but as a necessary surgical removal of a cancerous republic and a hypocritical Jedi Order. He flattered Dooku's intellect, his noble birth, his disillusionment. He made him feel like the co-architect of a new, sensible, orderly galaxy. This is the premium Sith scam. You're not a tool, you're a partner. You're not driven by base anger. You're motivated by high-minded ideology. It's a lie, but it's a beautiful, gilded one. So what's your first day as Count Dooku, Dark Lord of the Sith? You wake up in your palatial estate on Sereno. You have wealth beyond measure, servants, respect. You dress in fine robes, not battle armor. You sip fine wine and discuss political theory with other disillusioned star systems. You command the separatist movement, a coalition of thousands of worlds and the massive droid armies of the Trade Federation and banking clan. On paper, you are a head of state, a revolutionary leader. You have a curved hilt lightsaber, elegant and unique. Because you're not a brute like Maul, you're a duelist, a fencer. But let's pull back the velvet curtain. First, you are a figurehead, a very handsome, very well-spoken mask. The real power, the droid armies, the funding, the entire strategy, it's all controlled by Sidious from his office on Coruscant. You're the CEO of a subsidiary, thinking you're running the show, while the sole shareholder is secretly also the CEO of your biggest competitor, the Republic. Your every move is choreographed. The war you're fighting, the Clone Wars, is a rigged game. Both sides are being played by the same man. You are leading millions of beings to their deaths, in a conflict whose outcome is already predetermined. The Republic must win, you must lose. Your purpose isn't to succeed, your purpose is to be the villain, to be the threat that justifies Palpatine's power grab. You are the catalyst, not the chemist. Then there's the apprenticeship. It's a sham. Sidious is never not training Anakin Skywalker to replace you. You're a placeholder, a sophisticated temp. You're teaching him Sith techniques, sure, but only the ones Sidious allows. You're keeping the seat warm for the chosen one, and you either don't know it or are too arrogant to admit it to yourself. Your master views you with the cold appraisal of a chess player looking at a knight that's about to be sacrificed to open up the board, and the isolation is of a unique, chilly kind. You've burned your bridges with the Jedi. You look down on the Separatist Council, the Neimoidians, the Skakoans, as greedy, cowardly fools, which they are. You have no peers, no friends. Your only confidant is the man who is setting you up for a fall. Your elegance is just a more spacious prison. Now, let's talk about the physical and moral toll. Dooku is old. He's using the dark side to augment his abilities, to keep himself sharp, but it's a transaction. The dark side doesn't grant eternal youth like it does for Sidious. It's more like a stimulant. It keeps you going, but it's corrosive. It sharpens your anger, your arrogance, your contempt. It withers your compassion. Watch him in Attack of the Clones. He's cool, calm, and utterly merciless. He orders the assassination of a former friend, Padme, without a second thought. He chops off Anakin's arm and prepares to execute him and Obi-Wan with the detached efficiency of a man pruning a tree. This is the civilized Sith, the one who has justified brutality as a necessary cost of doing business. He has convinced himself he's making an omelette, and the billions of broken eggs are just a statistic. His end is the ultimate punchline to the joke. After years of war, of commanding vast fleets, of believing himself a pivotal historical figure, he's cornered on the invisible hand. He fights Anakin and Obi-Wan, disarms Obi-Wan, and then he loses to Anakin. He's disarmed, literally and figuratively. He's on his knees, and then his master. He doesn't bargain. He doesn't try to save his partner. He looks at Dooku, this proud count, this Sith Lord, and he gives one simple, chilling order to Anakin: kill him. The look on Dooku's face in that moment is everything. It's not fear of death. It's the dawning, horrific realization that he was never a partner. He was always the pawn to be sacrificed. The elegant revolutionary was just a prop. Anakin beheads him, and his body is left crumpled on the floor like garbage. Sidious doesn't even look back. He's already working on corrupting Anakin. That's the final brutal lesson of Dooku. The Sith don't just break the angry and the weak. They also seduce and discard the smart, the principled, the noble. They take your greatest strengths, your intellect, your ideals, your pride, and they use them as the very ropes to bind you. Dooku thought he was playing the game. He never realized he was the game piece. Could you last a day as Count Dooku? You'd spend it in a gilded cage, giving orders that aren't really yours, fighting a war you can't win, for a cause that doesn't exist, serving a master who's already picked your replacement. Your reward for a lifetime of achievement, wealth, and high-minded philosophy, to be used as a scapegoat and then unceremoniously executed the second your role is over, with your death serving as one more lesson for your actual successor. It's a more polite hell than Maul's trash planet, but it's a hell just the same. At least Maul knew he was a weapon. Dooku died thinking he was a partner, and that's an even more profound betrayal. Now we have to go back a generation, to the man who thought he could outsmart the ultimate price. The man who had the universe in the palm of his hand, and then learned in the most final way possible that the dark side is not a tool you wield. It's a deal you make, and the fine print always, always gets you. Let's talk about Darth Plagueis the Wise. He was a moon, a species of bankers, calculators, and long-term planners from the planet Munilinst. His public face was Hago Damask, a towering, pale figure who was the director of the Damask Holdings intergalactic banking clan. This was the perfect camouflage. The Sith had been hiding for 1,000 years, and Plagueis perfected the art of hiding in plain sight, in the most powerful, least suspected circles imaginable, the ultra-wealthy. His master, Darth Tenebrous, was a Bith obsessed with grand cosmic engineering and shaping the physical universe through the Force. Plagueis took this intellectual foundation and turned it inward, into the microscale. His obsession was life itself, more specifically, the midi-chlorians, the microscopic, Force-sensitive life forms that act as a conduit to the Force. To other Sith, the Force was an ocean to drown their enemies in. To Plagueis, it was a spreadsheet, a biological process to be analysed, charted, and ultimately hacked. His life's work was to conquer death, not through crude means like transferring his spirit or cloning, though he dabbled in that, but through the ultimate understanding. He wanted to grasp the fundamental connection between the Force and life so completely that he could reach into the void and pull a being back, or even manifest new life from the raw material of the Force. And the terrifying, awe-inspiring lore suggests he succeeded. In the novel Darth Plagueis, we see him perform miracles. He heals the mortally wounded. He manipulates midi-chlorian counts to enhance Force potential. In his most profound act, he reaches into the Force and through sheer will and understanding, coaxes a new life into being, conceiving a child in the womb of a mother who could not otherwise conceive. He's playing God in the most literal sense. So imagine your first day as Darth Plagueis. You wake up in a penthouse suite on Sojourn, or in a sterile, hyper-advanced laboratory complex. Your world is one of quiet, immense control. Your lightsaber is a financial report. Your battlefield is the Galactic Stock Exchange. Your dark side rituals are conducted under blinding lights, with subjects strapped to tables, their vital signs and midi-chlorian readings flickering on screens as you experimentally push life to the brink and then pull it back. You are clean, you are precise. You have removed the mess of emotion, the chaotic passion the Sith pay lip service to, and replaced it with cold, clinical intent. You haven't rejected the rule of two. You believe you have perfected it. You are the ultimate master, the immortal brain that will guide the Sith to permanent victory. You just need the right hands to execute your will, and you find them in Palpatine, a young, fiercely ambitious noble from Naboo, seething with a hidden, bottomless cruelty. He is perfect, not a blunt instrument like Maul would be, but a scalpel, a political prodigy. You train him not just in the ways of the Force, but in economics, political theory, and the art of societal manipulation. You are Pygmalion, and he is your Galatea. Together you form a partnership that seems to transcend the petty betrayals of the past. For nearly 40 years, you work in synchrony. You orchestrate the stark hyperspace war to destabilize the Republic. You maneuver the Trade Federation into a position of power. You carefully nudge the galaxy toward the tipping point you've calculated. This is the Sith Grand Plan, not as a vague dream of revenge, but as a meticulous, decades-long business strategy. You are the CEO and chairman of the board of the Sith, and Sidious is your brilliant, ruthless COO. This is the pinnacle. The Sith have never been closer to their goal. You control the money. You control the political levers. You're on the verge of unlocking immortality. You attend glittering galas as Higo Damask, advising senators, while in the shadows, you conduct experiments that bend the fabric of life. You believe you have solved the Sith equation. Passion is for the weak. True power is calm, absolute, and eternal. The end, when it comes, is a masterpiece of ironic horror. It's the night of Palpatine's election to Supreme Chancellor. This is it, the crowning achievement of their decades of work. The Sith puppet is now the most powerful political figure in the Republic. They should be celebrating. Plagueis is in a meditative trance, perhaps contemplating his next breakthrough, perhaps savouring the victory. He is for once not the vigilant master, but a proud father, and Sidious, his beloved apprentice, sees the opening. Sidious, having learned at his master's feet, understands that true power is efficient. He uses the Force to manipulate the very air around Plagueis, severing the connection between his will and his body. He induces a paralytic state, and then, methodically, suffocates him. The great Darth Plagueis, who could command life forces across a room, cannot command his own lungs to draw breath. The man who sought to hold back death for all eternity is killed by its simplest, most mundane mechanism, a lack of air. The legend Palpatine later tells Anakin, he could save others from death but not himself, is a cruel joke. It implies Plagueis failed in a moment of crisis. The truth is worse. He was never given the chance to try. His own creation, his masterpiece, murdered him in the one state where his great knowledge was useless. Unknowing, vulnerable sleep. His legacy, all his knowledge, his banking empire, his genetic research, his grand plan. It became the foundation for Sidious's empire. He was the anonymous, forgotten cornerstone. His story is only told as a seductive parable to lure the next victim. The ultimate planner became a plot point in someone else's story. To live a day as Plagueis is to live in a gilded, sterile hell of your own intellect. Your entire existence is a long, complex calculation where you are the only constant. You feel no joy, only the satisfaction of a correct prediction. You feel no companionship, only the utility of an asset. You feel no fear, because you have calculated the odds of every conceivable threat, except the one living in your house, growing stronger on the power you helped him cultivate. Your final moment isn't one of rage or battle, but of cold, dawning, utterly futile realization, as the darkness you sought to command closes in from the one vector you never accounted for, behind your own eyes. Plagueis proves the darkest truth of the Sith path. No amount of wisdom, no depth of knowledge, no breadth of power can save you from the inherent flaw in the system. And this beautifully brutal, self-cannibalizing system, it didn't spring from nowhere. It was designed, codified into sacred law by a man who looked at the chaotic, self-destructive mob the Sith had become, and decided the only way to save them was to make the game even more vicious, more intimate, and more lonely. To understand the engine of the modern Sith, we have to meet the mechanic who rebuilt it from the ground up on a single, brutal principle. The founder of the nightmare, Darth Bane. We have to go back 1,000 years, to the end of the old ways, to the smouldering ruins of a Sith empire that had just eaten itself alive. And standing in those ashes, coughing on the smoke of his own species' extinction, was a man who had a revelation. The problem wasn't that the Sith were too weak, it was that there were too many of them. His name was Dessel, a miner from the hell world of Apatros, but history would remember him as Darth Bane, and his idea, his brutal, elegant, and utterly devastating idea, was the rule of two. To understand Bane, you have to understand the world he destroyed. The Sith weren't always a shadowy duo, they were an empire, a vast, sprawling civilization, with armies, lords, academies. Think the Sith equivalent of the Jedi Temple, but with more torture chambers and black leather. The Brotherhood of Darkness, and they were losing. Not because they were weak, but because they were a mess. They were a pack of rabid dogs, all snapping at each other for scraps, while the Jedi stood as a unified, disciplined order. The Sith were plagued by infighting, betrayal, and a stupid tradition called the Rule of the Strong, where any Sith could challenge any other for rank. It was constant, exhausting civil war. They were so busy fighting each other, they couldn't effectively fight the Jedi. Bane lived this. He was a foot soldier in this dysfunctional army. He saw Sith Lords wasting their energy, assassinating rivals instead of Jedi. He saw the Order's leader, Lord Kaan, a weak-minded fool who believed in equality among the Sith, which just meant no one was strong enough to actually lead. Bane saw the whole rotten structure for what it was, a doomed, pathetic pantomime of power. It disgusted him. And then he found a Sith holocron, the ghost of a long-dead Sith Lord named Darth Revan. But that's a story for later. And from it he learned the ancient, purer philosophies. He learned that the dark side isn't a communal resource, it's a personal, all-consuming fire. Sharing it dilutes it. 1,000 Sith squabbling and backstabbing were weaker than a single, focused Dark Lord. The Jedi won through unity and cooperation. The Sith could only win through absolute, uncompromising strength concentrated in one vessel. Passed down to a single worthy successor, this was his revelation. The rule of two. Two there should be, no more, no less. One to embody the power, the other to crave it. This was a biological imperative, reshaped as a religious doctrine. Think of it as forced evolution. The master holds all the power, all the knowledge. The apprentice hungers for it, learns from the master, and must grow strong enough to kill him and take it. When that happens, the power has passed to a stronger vessel. The master is proven weak and deserving of death. The The apprentice is proven strong and worthy of the title. Then the new master finds an apprentice, and the cycle continues. Each generation, in theory, would be stronger than the last. The Sith would evolve in the shadows, getting sharper, deadlier, and more patient with every succession, until they were finally strong enough to wipe out the Jedi and rule the galaxy. It's a brutally beautiful idea, and it's the reason you wouldn't last a minute as Darth Bane, because to be Bane is to live the principle in its rawest, most painful form. First, you are utterly, cosmically alone. You don't have an army, you don't have a cult, you have one other person in your entire universe, your apprentice. And your relationship with that person is defined by a single, unchangeable fact. One day, they must try to kill you. Every lesson you teach them is a tool they will eventually turn on you. Every secret you share is a vulnerability you are creating. Your only companion is your eventual murderer. You live in a state of perpetual, calculated paranoia. You must be strong enough to keep them in line, but you must also nurture their strength enough to make them a worthy successor. It's like carefully sharpening the knife that will be plunged into your heart, judging the exact moment it's sharp enough to be a worthy weapon, but not so soon that it catches you off guard. Bane's own apprenticeship under Lord Cordis was a farce. He outgrew his master in the Brotherhood almost immediately. His true apprentice was a young girl he found on a battlefield, Zannah. He saw her raw, terrifying power with Sith sorcery, a power different from his own brute strength. He chose her, not despite that difference, but because of it. She would add new dimensions to the Sith knowledge he would pass down. He trained her, raised her, and from day one he knew she would be the test of his life's work. Would she become strong enough to kill him, proving the rule's success? Or would he destroy her, proving he was still the strongest and need to start over? Now imagine your day as Bane. You wake up in a hidden fortress on a forgotten world like Ambria or Tython. There is no court, no admirals vying for your favour. There is silence, broken only by the wind and the distant sounds of your apprentice practicing. Your entire day is dedicated to two things. One, deepening your own connection to the dark side through brutal rituals and study of forbidden lore. Two, overseeing the growth of your replacement. You are a gardener tending a poisonous tree that is meant to one day fall on you. Your conversations are lessons or tests. There is no small talk, no shared laughter. There is only the mission, the long, slow, centuries-long war of patience against the Jedi. And the physical cost? Bane didn't have a fancy suit, but he had something worse, the Orbalisk armor. In his quest for power, he bonded with a species of dark-side parasitic crustaceans that latched onto his skin, covering his body. They made him nearly invulnerable, healing his wounds and pumping him full of adrenaline and dark-side energy. They also caused him constant searing pain and slowly poisoned his blood. He was in a state of perpetual, agonized augmentation. He was powerful, but he was also a prisoner in a living shell of torment, a constant reminder that power in the dark side always comes with a physical price. He was slowly being eaten alive by the very things that made him strong. This is the essence of the Sith existence under the rule of two. It is a life of profound existential loneliness, constant pain, and paranoid mentorship. You're not building an empire for yourself. You are building a legacy for a future you will never see, to be inherited by the person who kills you. Your victory condition is your own murder at the hands of your student. If you win and kill them, you've failed because the line ends with you. If they kill you too early or too weakly, you've failed because the knowledge passed on is inferior. Bane's own end is shrouded in mystery and perfect for the myth. After decades of training Zannah, the final confrontation comes. They duel in a torrential rainstorm on a barren plain. It's not a clash of armies. It's the ultimate, intimate test of his philosophy. Bane, the founder, the stronger warrior. Zannah, the apprentice, the cunning sorceress. The legends differ. Some say Zannah overwhelmed him with Sith sorcery, destroying his mind and taking his place, proving the rule. Others whisper that Bane, in a final, paradoxical act of control, attempted to possess Zannah's body with a rare ritual called essence transfer, and that perhaps he lived on within her, a ghost in the machine of his own creation. Either outcome is a horror. He is either murdered by his daughter figure, or he becomes a parasitic voice in her head for eternity. Both are the logical endpoint of the path he designed, total consumption, either of the master by the apprentice, or of the apprentice by the master. Could you last a day as Darth Bane? You would spend it in a silence so deep it would drive you mad, with a pain in your flesh as your constant companion, staring across a table at the only other human being in your world, knowing with absolute certainty that your purpose in life is to make them strong enough to end you. Every moment is a step toward your own obsolescence. Every triumph of teaching is a nail in your coffin. There is no winning in the traditional sense. There is only the perpetuation of the line, with your corpse as the fertilizer. Bane didn't create a path to power. He created a sacred, self-perpetuating murder cycle and called it enlightenment. He is the reason Plagueis was killed in his sleep. He is the reason Sidious always had a replacement waiting. He is the engine of betrayal that drives the entire Sith tragedy. Now we go back to the source of the source. A man who wasn't a Sith Lord, but an idea. A warning, a temptation, a lesson all in one. To talk about Darth Revan is to talk about the Sith as a philosophical corruption, rather than just a family business of murder. This is where the fall has gravity. This is where it looks, for a terrifying moment, like it might actually be worth it. Revan didn't start in a Sith academy. He started at the top, a Jedi Knight, a brilliant military strategist, a charismatic leader. When the Mandalorian Wars began, crushing the Outer Rim, the Jedi Council dithered. They preached patience, meditation, a cautious response. Revan saw worlds burning. He saw the Senate failing. And he said, no. He and his friend Malak broke from the Council, took a bunch of Jedi and Republic forces with them, and went to war. And they won. They beat the Mandalorians at the Battle of Malachor V in a devastating, cataclysmic victory. He was a Republic hero. This is the first crucial point. Revan's fall wasn't born from petty ambition or personal slight. It was born from a desire to do good, to save people, to take action when others were paralyzed. He went into the unknown regions to chase the remnants of the Mandalorians and find the source of their power. And what he found there broke him, or maybe clarified him. He found the Sith Emperor, a being of ancient, unimaginable evil. He was captured, tortured, and his mind was reshaped. But Revan was so strong the process worked both ways. He absorbed the Emperor's teachings, his philosophies, and he was converted. He didn't just break, he was convinced. He saw the weakness of the Republic, the stagnation of the Jedi, and he believed the only way to save the galaxy from a far greater threat, the Emperor, was to unite it through strength, through the dark side. He and Malak returned not as heroes, but as conquerors. Darth Revan and Darth Malak. This is what makes Revan uniquely dangerous and seductive. He was a reformer. He believed in order, efficiency, and the removal of weakness. He used the Starforge, an ancient, infinite factory, to build a fleet that could challenge the Republic. He was winning. He was a Dark Lord who made sense. So imagine your first day as Darth Revan. You are the supreme commander of the most powerful military force in the galaxy. You are winning a war you believe is necessary. Your officers, your soldiers, they don't only fear you, many believe in you. You have a purpose larger than yourself, forging a galaxy strong enough to survive the true evil you know is coming. You wear a mask not just to intimidate, but to symbolize that Revan the man is gone, replaced by the ideal of the Sith Lord. Anonymity, purpose, power divorced from person. You have a best friend and brother in arms, Malak. As your right hand, you have momentum, victory, and conviction. This is the Sith delusion at its most attractive. You're not a lonely schemer. You're a revolutionary leader. You're making the hard choices for the greater good. Every planet you conquer, you're saving it from Republic corruption and Jedi hypocrisy. Every life you take is a necessary sacrifice on the altar of future strength. The dark side isn't a personal addiction. It's the fuel for your righteous crusade. It feels justified. But here's the trap, and it's a two-part trap. Trap 1. The corruption of your own tools. The dark side doesn't do greater good. It corrupts the intent. Revan's methods, conquest, tyranny, fear, began to eclipse his supposed goal. He started building a Sith empire that looked suspiciously like the thing he claimed to be saving the galaxy from, just with him in charge. The power to force order becomes the love of forcing. The ends justify the means, until the means become the only end you can remember. Trap 2. The betrayal inherent in the system. You have an apprentice, Malak, and you've taught him everything you know, including that power is the only truth. You've fostered his ambition, his brutality. You've made him a powerful Sith Lord. And then, in a moment of vulnerability, when your flagship is engaged with a Jedi strike team, Malak sees his chance. He turns the guns of his own ship on your bridge, trying to kill you and take everything for himself. Your best friend, your brother, becomes your assassin for the most Sith reason imaginable, because he could. Revan survives, of course. Captured by the Jedi, his mind was wiped clean. They reprogrammed him to be a good Jedi again and sent him to stop Malak. This is the ultimate irony. The Jedi saved him by destroying who he was. He became a puppet fighting his own creation. He defeated Malak, saved the Republic, and became a legend again. But the man underneath? Revan was a ghost. A hollowed-out shell with two sets of memories. Two lives, neither of them fully his own. Later lore suggests the buried Revan survived, fragmented. His light side half became a hermit, seeking balance. His dark side half was imprisoned for centuries by the Sith Emperor, his will used as a battery. He was literally torn in two forever. This is why you wouldn't last a day as Darth Revan, because his story is the ultimate warning about the road to hell being paved with the very best intentions. You start with heroism, with a desire to save lives. The dark side offers you the power to do it, to cut through the red tape and make the hard calls. But it slowly, inexorably, rewires your brain. Your compassion becomes calculation. Your courage becomes cruelty. Your friendship becomes a liability. You become the mask, and the grand cause you fought for becomes a distant memory, buried under the daily addiction to control, to dominance, to the sweet, screaming rush of the dark side. Your day as Revan would be a parade of grim necessities, signing off on brutal occupations, looking into the eyes of your oldest friend, and seeing only a rival. Feeling the mask fuse to your face, both literally and spiritually, until you can't remember what you looked like without it. You have all the power in the galaxy, and you're utterly alone inside it, a prisoner of your own hardened convictions. Revan's legacy, it's a question. Can a good man use evil tools and remain good? His life screams the answer. No. The tools remake the man. He is the proof that the most dangerous Sith is the one who believes his own propaganda, who thinks he's the hero of his own story. He falls not into musty ruins, but onto a golden throne, and finds it just as empty and twice as cold. Now we come to the other side of that legendary coin. If Revan is the tragic fall of a great mind, then Malak is the blunt force trauma that follows. He is the lesson in what happens when you take the Sith's most basic, ugly impulses, ambition, rage, impatience, and give them a fleet. He's the guy who looks at the philosophical, mask-wearing Dark Lord and thinks, too complicated, just grab it. And his story shows you why that's a one-way ticket to an even quicker, dirtier end. Malak started as Revan's friend. Alex Quinquagesimus, a loyal Jedi Knight, fought at his side in the Mandalorian Wars. He believed in Revan. He followed him into the unknown regions. And when Revan fell, Malak fell right beside him, embracing the dark side with a fervor that maybe even surprised his master. He became Darth Malak. But here's the critical difference. Where Revan was converted by an ancient, compelling idea of Sith power as a tool for order, Malak was just angry. He was a follower who found a philosophy that rewarded his rage. He didn't want to rebuild the galaxy. He wanted to break the things that annoyed him, chief among them, the Jedi Order that had held him back. So picture this. You wake up as the right hand of the most feared being in the galaxy. You command fleets. You have the title of Darth. You have a jaw made of metal because Revan, in a fit of dark side discipline, cut it off for your failure or impudence. Stories differ, but the message is clear. You are replaceable. That metal jaw is your constant reminder. You are not the master. You are the attack dog, and attack dogs get put down if they misbehave. Your entire existence is built on a foundation of seething inferiority. You live in Revan's shadow. He's the strategist, the thinker, the one with the grand vision. You're the hammer he uses to smash things. And with every world you burn, every Jedi you kill, that rage grows. But it's not directed just at the enemy. It simmers inward, toward Revan himself. Because as much as you hate the Jedi, You start to resent the man who holds your leash. You learn everything he teaches you about power being the only truth, and you look at him and think, then why is he on the throne? Why not me? This is the apprentice's trap, magnified. You're not patiently learning in a hidden temple. You're in the heat of a galactic war, with power flooding into your hands daily. The dark side is screaming in your ear, telling you you're strong, you're deserving, you should take what you want. And what you want is to not be second anymore. Then comes your moment. In the chaos of battle, you see your chance. You order the guns of your own ship to fire on Revan's bridge. You don't challenge him to an honourable duel. You try to obliterate him from afar. It's not a test of strength, it's an assassination. A coward's move, but in the Sith playbook, that's just called Tuesday. You succeed, sort of. Revan is captured by the Jedi, not killed, but he's gone. The throne is empty. You become the Dark Lord. This is it, the moment you craved. You seize the Starforge, you take command of the Sith Empire. You should be triumphant, and instantly you are in over your head. Malak is the archetype of the unworthy successor. He coveted the crown, but never understood the weight of it. He saw the Sith as a means to unleash his anger, not as a vehicle for any actual purpose. Without Revan's strategic mind, the war effort becomes crude, brutal, and inefficient. He relies on terror and overwhelming force, which just galvanizes the Republic's resistance. He's a brute, and everyone knows it. His subordinates, his enemies, and worst of all, he knows it deep down. His leadership is a mess of paranoia and wasted resources. He's so insecure that he starts purging anyone he sees as a potential rival, wasting valuable Sith and military assets. He becomes obsessed with finding Revan, who, with a wiped memory, is now fighting for the Jedi, because the ghost of his master haunts him more than any living enemy. He can't outthink Revan, so he just tries harder to out-brutalize him, which is a losing game. Let's talk about his day-to-day. You're on the Starforge, an ancient dark side artifact that hums with a madness that seeps into your bones. You're surrounded by yes-men and sycophants who are terrified you'll force-choke them for a minor error. Your war council is just you barking orders. You spend your time scanning reports of setbacks, hunting for an amnesiac man who was once your best friend, and trying to manage a war machine you don't truly comprehend. There's no grand strategy session, no sharing of power, just you in a room getting angrier and more isolated by the minute. The dark side feeds on this, but it doesn't give you wisdom. It just makes the room feel smaller and your temper shorter. And then, of course, Revan returns, as the Jedi's prodigal knight. He cuts through your empire, your fleets, your best commanders. He walks a path of destruction you paved, but now he's using it against you. The final confrontation on the Starforge, it's a cosmic joke. You, the Dark Lord of the Sith, in your moment of supreme power, are defeated by the hollowed-out shell of the man you betrayed, the student who never truly surpassed the master. Malak's end is perfect. Beaten, broken, lying on the deck of his own throne room, he has a moment of pathetic clarity. He asks Revan if he ever would have made a good Jedi. It's the question of a child seeking approval from a parent he just murdered. He dies not in a blaze of dark side glory, but in a whimper of regret and failure, his metallic jaw finally silent. His entire reign is a lesson in the emptiness of ambition without vision. He gained the universe and had no idea what to do with it except break it more. He was a perfect Sith apprentice in his hunger, but a catastrophic Sith Lord because hunger was all he had. To live a day as Malak is to live in a constant state of defensive rage. Everyone is beneath you, and yet everyone is a threat. Every victory feels hollow because you know you're just playing with Revan's toys. Every setback is a personal insult. You are the apex predator in a cage of your own insecurity, pacing and snarling until the real predator shows up and ends your reign in an afternoon. Malak is the proof that the Sith path doesn't just corrupt the wise, it utterly annihilates the simple. It takes a strong follower and turns him into a weak tyrant, whose only legacy is being the answer to a trivia question. Who was the guy who briefly had the job after Revan? Exar Kun, a young Jedi in the golden age of the Old Republic, a time of relative peace. And he was brilliant, incredibly strong in the Force, intellectually voracious and charismatic. The Jedi Order of his era was conservative, cautious, focused on meditation and gradual understanding. For Kun, it was stifling. He saw them as caretakers of a dimming flame, guarding knowledge they were too timid to use. His hunger wasn't for justice or revenge, it was for more. More power, more secrets, more understanding of the Force's true depths. This intellectual and spiritual arrogance was the crack in his foundation. He left the Order's confines to become an archaeologist and historian, seeking out forbidden knowledge. This is where the first fatal choice was made. He didn't stumble into evil. He went looking for it, convinced of his own immunity. His journey led him to the planet Onderon, to the tomb of a long-dead Sith Lord, Freedon Nadd. Here, he found a mentor. The spirit of Nadd whispered to him, flattering his intellect, stoking his pride, showing him glimpses of Sith power. Kun touched the darkness, and it felt exhilarating. It was knowledge without borders, power without the Jedi's tiresome lectures on restraint. It confirmed his deepest belief, that he was special, destined for more than the Order could offer. But this was just the apprenticeship. His real corruption came when he travelled to the ancient Sith worlds, Korriban and Yavin. The spirits of ancient Dark Lords, trapped in their tombs, saw a vessel of immense potential. They performed a dark side ritual on him, physically marking him with Sith tattoos that channeled power and symbolised his total commitment. He ceased to be a Jedi, studying the dark side. He became a receptacle for millennia of accumulated Sith malice and ambition. You are the centre of a cult of personality. You have a lightsaber of your own design, a dual-phase weapon that can unexpectedly extend in length, a trick to kill the overconfident. You wear ornate gold-accented armour. You command not just soldiers, but legions of Tyrannosaurs and other beasts twisted by your own Sith alchemy. You have turned the Massassi, the primitive descendants of the ancient Sith on Yavin 4, into your fanatical followers, building great temples for you. Your daily life is a whirlwind of dark creativity and narcissistic grandeur. Your time is spent in several equally terrifying pursuits. You are a Sith alchemist. You spend hours in laboratories deep within Yavin's temples, using the dark side to warp biology. You create monsters. You experiment on living subjects, blending flesh and machine, seeking to perfect your art. The smell of ozone, decay, and burnt spice hangs in the air. The screams are part of the process. You see this not as torture, but as research, pushing the boundaries of life itself. You delve into Sith magic that the Jedi have forgotten or outlawed. You learn to create illusions so potent they can kill. You study rituals that can drain life from a planet or bind spirits to your will. Your power is as much about knowledge and ritual as it is about brute force strength. You are a scholar of the abyss. You are waging the great Sith war. But for you, it's a statement. Every battle is choreographed for maximum terror and symbolic impact. You recruit other fallen Jedi, like Ulic Qel-Droma, not only as lieutenants, but as brothers in your dark crusade, validating your belief that you are leading the worthy away from Jedi stagnation. It feels incredible. This is the ultimate Sith seduction. You are unshackled. You are creating, building, leading. The dark side flows through you, not as a grim duty, but as a source of ecstatic inspiration. You believe, truly and utterly, that you are the future. The Jedi are the past, grey, boring, and weak. You are vibrant, powerful, and free. In your own mind, you are not a villain. You are a revolutionary artist, and the galaxy is your canvas. The intoxicating high is real. The power is real. The war turns. The Republic and Jedi, led by figures like the redeemed Ulic and the Jedi Master Vodosiyosk Bas, rally. Your grand designs start to crumble under the weight of their unity and your own strategic limitations. You're a brilliant sorcerer, not a pragmatic general. The defeat isn't gradual, it's a collapsing house of cards. This leads to the final, apocalyptic act. Cornered on Yavin 4, facing total annihilation, Exar Kun makes his ultimate masterpiece of darkness. He performs a galaxy-shaking Sith ritual. He reaches out with his will and tears the life force from every single Massassi on the moon, thousands upon thousands of his own fanatical followers. He uses this cataclysmic torrent of stolen death, pain, and sacrifice to fuel a spell of unprecedented power. His goal? To transcend death itself. And he succeeds. Sort of. His physical body is consumed, vaporized in the backblast of the ritual. But his consciousness, his ego, his hatred is anchored to the temples of Yavin 4. He becomes a dark side wraith, a ghost of immense power but no substance, bound forever to the site of his greatest atrocity. His grand quest for ultimate power and freedom ends with him as a fossilized spirit in a jungle temple. For 4,000 years, he exists as a bitter, powerless phantom. He can whisper, he can tempt, he can occasionally possess the weak, but he cannot leave, he cannot touch the galaxy. He is a museum exhibit of his own failure, a spook story to frighten Jedi younglings. He is utterly, eternally trapped. This is why you couldn't last a day walking the path of Exar Kun. Your day would be a roller coaster of godlike euphoria and soul-deep corrosion. You would spend the morning feeling like a creative genius, bending life to your will, the afternoon planning a battle that feels like a symphony of destruction. By evening, you'd be alone in your throne room, the echoes of your own power the only company, feeling a hollow ache that no amount of dark side energy can fill. And hovering over it all would be the unspoken truth. Every step on this path makes you less you, and more a vehicle for an ancient, hungry evil. You wouldn't be a Dark Lord, you'd be a brilliantly painted puppet, dancing on strings held by ghosts, until the final act where you immolate yourself, and the stage to become a ghost yourself. Exar Kun's legacy is the ultimate warning to the intellectual, the artist, the visionary who thinks they can handle the darkness. It says, the dark side will give you everything you think you want. The power, the creativity, the freedom from rules. And in doing so, it will take you completely, leaving behind only a signature of ruin and a ghost that screams in silence. If the life of a dark sorcerer king, painting the galaxy with your will, sounds like paradise, remember the final exhibit, a haunted temple on a backwater moon, and a name that eventually becomes just another cautionary tale in a Jedi archive. Meet Darth Vitiate, also known as the Sith Emperor, Valkorion, and a dozen other names. He is the terrifying, logical conclusion of the Sith philosophy taken to its absolute, universe-breaking extreme. His story shows that the ultimate prize of the dark side isn't rule, it's emptiness. It's becoming a god so hungry, you devour the very things that gave you purpose. He was born Tenebrae, on the Sith world of Medriars, a planet already steeped in cruelty. His father was a minor Sith Lord who saw his son only as a tool or a threat. His childhood was a relentless horror of abuse, neglect, and exposure to the rawest forms of dark side energy. But where this might break a spirit, it forged his into something inhuman. He discovered his unique, monstrous gift early, the power of force drain, not only to harm, but to utterly and completely consume the life force and essence of another being, absorbing their strength, memories, and very potential into himself. His first act of true power was not a battle or a political maneuver. It was a planetary-scale act of patricide and suicide. At the age of 10, he unleashed this power, not on his father alone, but on every single living thing on Medrias. He drained the planet. The screams of an entire world, people, animals, plants, the microbial hum of life itself, fed into him. His relationship with all existence is that of a devourer to food. From the very beginning, he understood life not as something to experience, but as fuel to be metabolized. He became the Sith Emperor, leading the original Sith Empire into exile after a great war, founding a new capital on Dromund Kaas. He ruled this empire for over 1,000 years. But ruled is a pathetic word for what he did. He curated it. He was less a king and more a farmer, tending a very, very large herd of cattle. The Sith Empire, with all its intrigues, its wars, its dark council, its glorious fleets and terrifying warriors, all of it was just a complex system for breeding and organizing sustenance. The infighting, the passion, the struggles for power among his Sith, he allowed it, he even encouraged it. It made them stronger, more potent morsels. They thought they were playing the game of power. They were just fattening themselves up for a harvest he had planned for a millennium. His true masterpiece, his life's work, was the Great Ritual. A conquest is for those who want to own things. The plan was to reignite the war with the Galactic Republic, to draw the Jedi and their entire civilization into a final, apocalyptic conflict. The death, the fear, the rage of a galaxy at war would create a psychic focal point of unimaginable dark side energy. And at its climax, he would perform a ritual that would drain the life force of every single living being in the galaxy, trillions upon trillions of souls, from the greatest Jedi Master to the lowest insect. He would absorb it all, becoming a being of pure godlike consciousness, leaving behind a silent, dead husk of a universe. His goal was not to rule creation, it was to end it and become the only thing that remained. Now imagine your first day as Darth Vitiate, at the zenith of his power, centuries into his plan. You do not wake up. Consciousness simply reasserts itself. You have been conscious for over 1,000 years. The concept of a day is meaningless. You have seen seasons change on worlds, stars die, civilizations rise and fall. The passionate concerns of mortals, love, hatred, ambition, fear, are not emotions you feel. They are flavors you remember tasting long ago, before your palate became too refined for such crude sensations. Your existence is a paradox of absolute power and profound, soul-crushing ennui. You sit on your throne in the dark temple on Dromund Kaas, or perhaps in the solitude of your meditation chamber. Reports flow to you: wars, rebellions, political schemes on the Dark Council. They are less than the buzzing of insects. You have seen 10,000 such schemes. You could predict every move of your most cunning Dark Counselor because you have seen their type 100 times before. A being like Darth Malgus, all rage and brutal ambition, is not a person to you. He is a predictable force of nature, a particularly sharp tooth in the mouth of your empire, useful for tearing but ultimately disposable. Your children, like Arkan and Thexan, whom you would later sire as Valkorion, are not sons. They are experiments, projects, living weapons you crafted and observe with clinical detachment. You feel nothing when they suffer, strive, or die. You're so far beyond the parent-child dynamic that it seems a biological curiosity of lesser beings. Your work is long-term asset management. You might spend a century subtly guiding Sith philosophy through planted holocrons. You might spend decades manipulating the genetics of a slave species to make them more resilient workers. You communicate through proxies, through visions, through implanted compulsions. You are the hand inside 1,000 gloves. The Sith Lord who receives a dark vision, urging a specific conquest, believes he is inspired by the dark side. He is in fact following a subroutine you coded into the Force itself centuries prior. Your empire runs on the illusion of free will, and you are the puppet master who has grown tired of the play, but must see it through to the final act. You are not a man in a body. The body you wear is a vessel, a suit of meat. You have performed the Sith ritual of essence transfer countless times. When a body wears out or becomes inconvenient, you discard it and leap into another, usually a powerful Force sensitive you have groomed for this purpose. You are a consciousness, a collection of memories and hungers, a ghost that haunts the living by wearing their skin. Imagine the dislocation. You have no face, no true voice, no scent that is your own. This is the first fundamental reason you could not last a moment as Vitiate. His is a hell of absolute perspective. To see everything, every act of love, every deed of heroism, every petty crime, every grand ambition, as a transient flicker in the long dark night of your existence. It renders everything meaningless. The loneliness is so total, it ceases to be an emotion and becomes the state of the universe. You are the only real thing in a cosmos of shadows, and you are cursed with an appetite that can never be sated, because to finally consume everything is to be left with nothing but yourself. His great ritual is thwarted by a Jedi Knight, the hero of Tython. His spirit is cast out, fractured. His consciousness eventually coalesces, and he does something that reveals he was never truly Sith in the ideological sense. He was just using them. He manifests in a new realm, creates a new persona. Valkorion, the wise, seemingly benevolent emperor of Zakuul. As Valkorion, he builds the Eternal Empire, a society not of obvious Gothic cruelty, but of sleek, technological order and enforced peace. It is a society so advanced and perfect, it easily conquers both the worn-down Sith Empire and the Galactic Republic. This is his most chilling lesson. The Sith Code, the Rule of Two, the trappings of red lightsabers and skulls. These were just tools, one aesthetic of control among many. He proved that the core Sith impulse, domination, could be dressed in silver and white as easily as in black and red. Order or chaos, light or dark, were just dials on the same machine, and he owned the controls. In the end, he is defeated not by fleets or lightsabers, but by a refusal. The Outlander, a mortal whose body he tries to claim as his final vessel, fights him from within, with the messy, stubborn, mortal attachments Vitiate had shed millennia ago. Friendship, loyalty, love for a family that isn't a tool. These things, so insignificant to him, become the walls of his final prison. He is consumed not by a greater power, but by the very mortality he sought to transcend. He lived for over 1,500 years. He ruled two separate, galaxy-spanning empires. He possessed knowledge and power that made Palpatine look like a novice. He came within a breath of achieving his ultimate goal of becoming the only consciousness in existence. To be Darth Vitiate is to win the Sith game so completely that you realize the board, the pieces, and the opponent were all illusions you created to stave off the unbearable truth. You are alone in a void, and you brought the void with you. He is the black hole at the end of the dark side's gravity well, infinitely dense, all-consuming, and surrounded by an event horizon beyond which nothing, not even light, not even meaning, can escape. We've talked about Sith who sought power for a purpose, to rule, to create, to destroy their enemies, to live forever. But what happens when the purpose evaporates, and only the hunger remains? What happens when a Sith stops being a who and becomes a what? This is Darth Nihilus, the Lord of Hunger, and his existence is the single most compelling argument that the dark side is not a path to power, but a terminal disease of the soul. During the final days of the Mandalorian Wars, he lived on a world caught in the destruction surrounding Malachor V. When the mass shadow generator fired, the battlefield collapsed into a gravitational nightmare. The shockwave wiped out fleets, tore the land apart, and killed almost everyone caught in it. Nihilus survived, but the experience shattered him. The pain, the grief, the endless wave of death sweeping through the Force, all of it hollowed him out. Most people die in an event like that. He didn't. The void left by the trauma twisted into a hunger, a craving not for food or power, but for the living Force itself. Simply existing became agonizing unless he drained the life energy of others. That craving kept him alive, but it also pushed him toward the dark side. In time, he crossed paths with Kreia, the fallen Jedi who had become Darth Trier. She recognized what he had become, an open wound in the Force, a being shaped by disaster. She taught him to control the hunger, manage it, even direct it. Under her guidance, he took the name Darth Nihilus, the Lord of Hunger, and became part of the Sith triumvirate alongside Trier and Darth Sion. But the hunger kept growing. The more he consumed, the stronger he became, and the further he drifted from whatever humanity he once had. Eventually, he wasn't a man wearing a mask, he was the void inside the mask, a walking wound that fed on entire worlds just to stay alive. Now forget having a first day as Darth Nihilus. He doesn't have days, he doesn't sleep or eat or think in any way we understand. He is a perpetual state of starving desperation. The man he was is gone. What remains is a consciousness defined by a single, all-consuming drive: feed. He wears robes and a mask not for intimidation, but perhaps to contain the void, to give a shape to the nothingness. He doesn't speak basic, he speaks in ancient Sith tongues, and his voice is the sound of tearing fabric, of vacuum sucking air from a room. He commands a starship, the Ravager, but he doesn't pilot it. It moves in response to his will, a dead vessel carrying a dead thing. His followers, the Mandalorian Crusaders he's enslaved, are not disciples. They are cattle he hasn't eaten yet. He keeps them alive to crew his ship, to find him more food. They are terrified of him, and their fear is like the scent of a meal. Now, imagine the experience. You are not sitting on a throne. You are floating in a silent chamber aboard your ghost ship. You have no thoughts about politics, revenge, or philosophy. Your entire universe is a spectrum of hunger. A planet shines in your perception, not as a world, but as a ringing chord of life energy. A Jedi is a blinding, painful star of power that you must extinguish and consume. A normal being is a faint, tasty morsel. Your existence is a constant, agonizing drain. If you do not feed, you fade. You don't die in the conventional sense. You unravel, your form dissipating because there is no substance to hold it together. So you must constantly, perpetually consume. You drain the life from your crew members one by one to keep going between meals. Then you guide your ship to a populated world. You reach out with your will and you feast. This is what he did to the planet Qatar, a Miraluka colony world. From orbit, he unleashes a massive force drain, and every living thing on the planet, every person, every Jedi gathered there, every Miraluka, every spark of life, is sucked dry. Their energy flows into him. The planet becomes a silent, sterile rock. For a moment, the hunger is sated. There is a fleeting, horrific sensation of fullness. And then, almost immediately, the emptiness returns, deeper than before. The hunger is worse because it knows how much it needs to be filled. It's the addiction cycle. Each fix must be bigger than the last, and the crash is more devastating. This is why you could not survive a second as Darth Nihilus. There is no you to survive. There is no personality to endure the hardship. There is only the hunger. It is all-consuming, literally. You have no friends, no goals, no pleasures, no memories of what you were. You are a verb, not a noun. The ultimate power he possesses, the ability to devour worlds, is not a tool he wields. It is a compulsion he suffers. He is a slave to his own condition. He is the dark side's perfect product, a being whose entire existence is the consumption of life, who can do nothing else until there is nothing left to consume, and he finally turns on himself. His end is poetic justice. He is defeated by the Jedi Exile, Mitra Surik, and she defeats him not by being more powerful, in a traditional sense, but by being his opposite. The Exile is also a wound in the Force, but of a different kind. She had severed her own connection to the Force to survive the Mandalorian Wars, creating a void. She is a still pool. He is a draining whirlpool. When he tries to feed on her, he finds nothing to consume. She is empty in a way that denies his hunger. In trying to devour a void, he overextends himself, unravels, and is consumed by his own endless need. He doesn't die fighting, he starves to death at a banquet he can't eat. Darth Nihilus is the final, terrifying lesson. The Sith crave power. But what is the most absolute power? The power to unmake life itself. He became a natural disaster, a force of entropy. His power is the ultimate curse. It is existence without life, hunger without satisfaction, action without purpose. He is what Vitiate aspired to be, stripped of all pretense of thought or control. He is the dark side, naked, not a philosophy but a terminal condition. Ben Solo. That's where you have to start. He was a dynastic event. His mother, Leia Organa, was a princess of Alderaan, a rebel hero, a senator, and later a general. His father, Han Solo, was the galaxy's most famous smuggler-turned-hero. His uncle and mentor was Luke Skywalker, Jedi Master, the man who redeemed Darth Vader, and his grandfather was Darth Vader. That's not a family tree, it's a loaded blaster pointed at a child's psyche. From birth, Ben was a nexus of overwhelming expectation and terrifying potential. He was powerful, yes, but his power was viewed through a lens of fear. Luke, in a moment of tragic weakness, sensed the growing darkness in him, a darkness likely exacerbated by the hidden manipulation of Snoke, and for a fleeting second considered killing him. Imagine that, your beloved uncle, your teacher, the symbol of all that's good, standing over you with an ignited lightsaber. The betrayal is absolute. It confirmed every dark whisper Snoke had planted. Your family fears you. They will destroy you. Your power is a curse they cannot understand. So Ben ran. He destroyed Luke's temple, joined the mysterious Snoke, and killed his fellow students. He didn't fall to the dark side in a calculated move for power. He fell because he was a traumatized, manipulated kid who saw the dark side as the only place that would have him, the only identity that was his. He became Kylo Ren to kill Ben Solo. Now, imagine your first day as Kylo Ren. Your quarters, whether on a First Order Star Destroyer or in your self-imposed exile in Vader's haunted castle on Mustafar, are stark, cold, and empty. There are no personal effects, no mementos, just the utilitarian gear of a warrior and the shattered remains of things you've destroyed in your fits. You put on the uniform, the black robes, the gloves, the belt, then you pick up the mask. The mask is the most important part. It's not like Vader's life support system. It's a prop, a psychological crutch. You designed it to look ancient, fearsome, to echo the legends of the Sith. You added the voice modulator that makes you sound like a demon from the depths. The mask is Kylo Ren. Ben Solo is the thing hiding inside it. The moment you seal it, you are trying to become the character. You are acting. Your day is a relentless performance, and you are a terrible actor. You ignite your lightsaber. The unstable, crossguard blade crackles and spits, a visual representation of your own psyche. Powerful, dangerous, and poorly constructed. You practice forms, but your mind isn't on technique. You're trying to meditate on the dark side, to draw on your anger. But your anger is a messy personal thing. It's not the clean, focused fury of a warrior. It's the resentment of a son who felt abandoned. The betrayal by an uncle. The shame of not living up to a myth. You try to channel it, and instead, you just get more frustrated. Sometimes you just stand there and scream into the modulated void of your own helmet, the sound echoing back at you, a feedback loop of misery. The pull to the light isn't an abstract concept for you. It has a face. The face of your father, Han Solo, a memory that feels like a physical wound, or worse, a vision. The spectre of your grandfather, Darth Vader, but he doesn't come to guide you. He comes as a taunt, a reminder of your inadequacy. You built a shrine to his melted helmet for Star's sake. You talk to it, begging for guidance, for a sign that you're on the right path. And all it does is remind you that you're a cheap imitation. Your idol is a ghost who died redeemed, and you're trying to emulate the monster he was, not the man he became. The cognitive dissonance is paralyzing. Your master, Supreme Leader Snoke, summons you. This is the moment you both dread and crave. You kneel before the massive, holographic visage of the disfigured being. He calls you a child in a mask. He mocks your conflict, your sentiment. He tells you the girl, the scavenger Rey, is your equal in the light, and it's an insult. He doesn't build you up. He systematically tears down what's left of your confidence, ensuring you remain dependent on his approval. You leave these sessions not filled with dark side potency, but hollowed out, humiliated, and more desperate than ever to prove him wrong. Your apprenticeship is abuse, not education. And then there are the moments that break through the performance, the moments Ben Solo screams to be let out. When you capture Rey on Takodana and take off your helmet, her look isn't of terror, but of surprise. "You're just a child," she says, and she's right. When you stand on the bridge on Starkiller Base with your father, the performance completely collapses. Han doesn't see Kylo Ren, he sees his son. He calls you Ben, and in that moment you're split in two. The boy wants nothing more than to take his father's hand and go home. The character of Kylo Ren knows he has to commit the ultimate Sith act to prove he's real. You kill your father. You commit patricide, the most ancient of Sith rites of passage. And it does nothing. It doesn't cement you in the dark side. It doesn't make you stronger. As Han Solo falls into the abyss, touching your face, you feel the opposite of power. You feel a part of your soul being severed. The hole inside you, which you were trying to fill with darkness, just got infinitely bigger. You've just followed the script to its darkest page, and the only reward is a deeper, more profound emptiness. You've won the Sith audition and failed the callback immediately. Your entire reign as Supreme Leader, after you kill Snoke, is a monument to this emptiness. You have no vision, no plan for the galaxy beyond rule. You command through fear and destruction, which only creates a more determined resistance. You're trying to build an empire on a foundation of tantrums. You sit on a throne of literal ashes in the wreckage of the supremacy. The ultimate edgelord with the keys to the galaxy and no idea where to drive. This is why you could not last a day as Kylo Ren. It is a 24/7 exercise in psychological self-mutilation. You are at war with yourself, and you are losing on both fronts. The dark side offers you no peace, only a louder scream to silence the conflict. The light side offers you a memory of home you feel you've burned beyond return. You are a prisoner playing the warden, wearing a mask to hide from your own reflection, serving a master who despises you, idolizing a ghost who pities you. It's all the damnation of the Sith with none of the perverse, single-minded satisfaction. If you think the dark side is about cool masks and angry outbursts, Kylo Ren is your future, a powerful, miserable mess, forever trying and failing to convince the galaxy you're something you're not. While deep down, you know you're just a scared kid wearing a Halloween costume that started to smell like sweat and regret. The Sith war machine needs more than just leaders and specialists. It needs its frontline generals. The pure, uncomplicated expressions of fury made manifest. The warriors who believe in the simple, clean truth of strength. This is Darth Malgus, and his story is a brutal lesson in what happens when the most loyal, most effective attack dog of the Sith finally looks up from the carnage and realizes his masters see him as just that, a dog. And dogs get put down. From his earliest days in the Sith Empire, he was a warrior, a human born on Dromund Kaas, and discovered for his potential in the dark side, he was raised within the ruthless structures of the Sith Academy, conditioned to see power as the ultimate truth. Malgus understood power in its most primal form, the ability to dominate, to enforce the will of the strong upon the weak. He believed in the Sith Empire not as a political entity, but as a pure embodiment of the strong ruling the weak. His loyalty was to the Empire as an ideal of might, and to the battlefield where that ideal was proven. It was a clean, honest belief, and it made him the Empire's most devastating weapon during the Great Galactic War and its aftermath. Now, imagine your first day as Darth Malgus. You don't wake up in quarters. You likely meditate in a Spartan chamber, your body a network of scars and cybernetics, a testament to battles survived. Your vocal cords are damaged from countless duels with Jedi, replaced with a cybernetic modulator that gives your voice a permanent, grinding snarl. The pain is a companion. It focuses you. You don a suit of intimidating battle armor, designed not for ceremony, but for survival, augmented for offense and defense. Your lightsaber is an extension of your body, a brutal instrument honed for maximum efficiency. Your day is war, pure and simple. If you are not on the battlefield, you are planning for it. You lead fleets, break blockades, shatter Jedi lines, and conquer worlds. For Malgus, this isn't a job. It's the living expression of the Sith Code. Peace is a lie. There is only passion. His passion is combat. Through passion, I gain strength. Every enemy slain, every Jedi defeated, makes him stronger. Through strength, I gain power. His power is earned with blood and victory. Through power, I gain victory. He is victory incarnate. Through victory, my chains are broken. This is the core of his belief. Malgus thought the battlefield was where freedom existed, unshackled from politics, compromise, or weakness. But here is the trap, the one his focus blinded him to. The Sith Empire he served was not the pure ideal he fought for. It was a complex, politically entangled bureaucracy. The Dark Council was a nest of schemers like Darth Barus and Darth Thanaton, who fought with plots, manipulation, and intrigue rather than lightsabers. They saw Malgus as a powerful tool, a devastating general, but not a peer. His victories were celebrated, then appropriated, used to advance council members' positions, and then forgotten once the battlefield no longer needed him. And then there was his most personal conflict, his love for Alina Daru, a Twi'lek slave he freed and made his companion. Traditional Sith doctrine condemned attachment, yet Malgus's bond with her became a private defiance of the Empire's hypocrisy. He loved her fiercely, and it gave him focus and purpose beyond power and combat. This love, however, was impossible to reconcile. He lived the ultimate Sith contradiction, the strongest of warriors, hiding a passion he could not afford to display. This tension came to a head after the infamous attack on the Jedi Temple on Coruscant. The Empire, in the aftermath of Malgus's triumph, sought to consolidate power through diplomacy, appeasement, and political negotiation, rather than total conquest. To Malgus, this was betrayal. The Jedi were broken, the galaxy ripe for domination, yet the Council chose compromise over complete victory. He saw it as weakness, a stain on everything he had fought for with blood and fury. So he did what a warrior believes is logical. He rebelled. He declared a new Sith Empire in open defiance of the Council, seizing control of the Sith homeworld and his flagship, the Bastion. He expected the other warriors, the true embodiments of Sith strength, to join him. He expected loyalty to the ideal of power, not to the schemes of politicians. But he was wrong, brutally, completely wrong. Your day as the false emperor would be a horrifying descent into isolation. The fleets he had commanded obeyed the Dark Council. The legions he had led remained loyal to the Sith state he had just rejected. Allies turned on him. Mercenaries and opportunists became the only companions of convenience. Alina Daru was killed indirectly in the chaos of his uprising. Malgus, the unstoppable weapon, was alone against the empire he had helped shape. Malgus was eventually defeated, not by a Jedi in single combat, but by the overwhelming combination of Sith and Republic forces acting together. Cornered, outnumbered, he was struck down, his dream of a pure, uncompromised Sith empire ending not with a glorious conquest but with bitter failure. Even later, when he returned under the authority of the true Sith Emperor, Vitiate, he became a tool once more, a living weapon, feared and respected, but no longer a symbol of personal conviction. His fire, his defiance, and his dream of purity were gone, leaving only the soldier, bound by duty and circumstance. To be Darth Malgus is to live a life of power and clarity within the constraints of a fundamentally flawed system. You believe in the simplicity of strength. Devote yourself entirely to becoming the strongest, and then discover that the world you fight for is ruled by those who understand that strength is just one instrument among many. Your loyalty, your passion, your victories, they are commodities for schemers. Your private love becomes a hidden shame. Your rebellion is branded as treason. Your life, a continuous struggle, is a lesson in the cost of being too honest, too strong, too free, in an empire built on manipulation. Your day would be spent in constant exertion, achieving victories immediately appropriated by others. You would feel the hypocrisy of the council at every meeting. You would conceal the one thing that gave you true solace, and when you finally try to act according to the ideals you fought for, you would stand alone, realizing that you were never a master. Malgus is the tragedy of the perfect soldier in an imperfect, cynical organization. He is a reminder that the Sith Empire does not want idealistic warriors, it wants useful ones. And when your utility ends, or when your ideals clash with the system, the machine you bled for will crush you without hesitation. This is Freedon Nadd, and his story shows that the dark side's most persistent threat isn't the warlord with a fleet, it's the ghost with a grudge and a talented real estate agent for a tomb. Nadd started, like many of the great tragedies, as a Jedi. A promising student during the early days of the Jedi Order, he was strong, ambitious, and deeply frustrated by what he saw as the Order's limitations. He craved power, real power, not just meditation and peacekeeping. This ambition led him to the ancient Sith world of Korriban. He apprenticed himself to the Dark Lord of his time, Naga Sado, or in some tellings, Sado's spirit. He fell to the dark side, became a Sith Lord, and carved out his own little kingdom on the planet Onderon. But Nadd's true legacy begins with his death. See, he didn't just die and become one with the Force. His will was so strong, his connection to the dark side so deeply tied to his hunger for power, that he anchored his spirit to his tomb. He became a Sith ghost, a conscious, malevolent presence bound to his burial place and the artifacts he left behind. He wasn't fading away, he was setting up shop for the long con. Now, imagine your existence as the ghost of Freedon Nadd. You don't have days, you have epochs. You are a consciousness inhabiting a cold stone tomb on Onderon. You have no body, no senses as living beings understand them. You perceive the world through the ripples in the dark side. You feel the presence of the living as irritating, bright sparks. Your entire universe is the confines of your tomb and the lingering hatred in your heart. You are a prisoner, but you've turned your prison into a trap for the living. Your activity consists of one thing: waiting. You wait for a spark of ambition, a flicker of weakness to come close. For centuries you whisper. You don't have a voice, but you can influence dreams, stir dark thoughts, and subtly guide the susceptible toward your tomb. You are a spiritual pollutant, leaking into the groundwater of Onderon's history. Then your patience pays off. A descendant of your bloodline, a proud Onderonian king, comes to your tomb. Maybe he seeks power to secure his rule. Maybe he's just curious. It doesn't matter. The moment he enters your space, you have him. You pour your consciousness into his mind. You grant him dark side power, enough to make him invincible in battle, to make his dynasty strong. You become his whispered advisor, his dark patron. The Naddist dynasty is born, and you are its unseen patriarch. For generations, you guide your descendants, making Onderon a fortress of dark side influence. You aren't ruling a galaxy, you're curating a family business of corruption. Your day is spent subtly manipulating kings, twisting their dreams, ensuring your bloodline remains strong and steeped in the darkness you provide. But here's the trap, even for a ghost. Your influence is parasitic. You don't create a healthy empire, you create a sick one. The Naddist rulers become tyrannical, cruel, and eventually decadent. The dark side you feed them corrupts everything. It creates rebels, the Beast Riders of Onderon. It draws the attention of the Jedi. Your great legacy is a planet in perpetual stagnant conflict, a festering wound in the Force, and you are stuck there. Your power is vast, but it is localized. You are a king in a crypt. Your entire existence is now tied to maintaining this small, cancerous kingdom. You've traded galactic ambition for eternal, petty manipulation of a single planet's royal family. It's a pathetic scale for a Sith Lord. Then, the Jedi come to break the curse, and with them comes your greatest opportunity and your final undoing. Exar Kun, the proud, power-hungry Jedi Knight, enters your tomb. He is everything your inbred descendants are not: immensely powerful, brilliant, and ambitious on a galactic scale. You shift your focus, you abandon the Naddist kings, and pour your energy into corrupting Kun. You show him visions of Sith glory. You teach him. You flatter him. You become the mentor he always wanted. You successfully turn him, helping to create the Sith Lord who would start the Great Sith War. And what is your reward? Once Exar Kun has what he wants, he destroys your tomb. He shatters the physical anchor for your spirit, not out of malice toward you, but simply because he needs the crystal from your sarcophagus for his own lightsaber. In that moment, you are not a feared Dark Lord. You are a resource to be mined. Your centuries of patient haunting, your dynasty, your legacy, it's all brushed aside by the next generation of darkness, who sees you as a useful fossil to be broken open for parts. Your spirit is presumably cast adrift, dissipated, or forever weakened. The student consumes the master, even when the master is already a ghost. This is why you could not last a moment in the eternal life of Freedon Nadd, because it is the most profound cosmic dead-end job imaginable. You are a customer service ghost for the dark side, stuck in a tiny office, your tomb, for thousands of years, dealing with entitled lesser clients, your descendants, until finally a premium client, Exar Kun, shows up, uses your knowledge, and then literally demolishes your office building for spare change. Your existence is one of unimaginable boredom, punctuated by moments of petty manipulation. You have no physical pleasures, no true agency. You are a reaction to the ambition of others. You are a lesson plan written in hatred, waiting for a student to read it and then burn the book. You traded mortality for immortality and got an eternity of being a forgotten, angry footnote in someone else's story, your greatest achievement being the corruption of a man who would then immediately render you obsolete. Nadd is the ultimate warning about the desire for legacy. He wanted to live forever through his influence, and he did. He became a cursed heirloom, a bad smell in a tomb, a whispering stain on his family line. His power was real, but its application was pathetic. Eternal spectral micromanagement of a backwater planet, all leading to a final, ignoble erasure by the very monster he helped create. If you think cheating death as a Sith means ruling forever, Nadd shows you the reality. It means becoming a museum exhibit that occasionally possesses the tour guide until a new investor buys the museum and throws your exhibit in the dumpster. He is the bridge between the ancient Sith Empire and the later wars. Now we go back to the roots, when the Sith were an empire, and at the peak of that ancient blood-soaked empire stood a ruler so powerful, his death didn't end his reign. It turned him into a standard no one could ever meet again. This is Marka Ragnos. He is the gold standard of Sith success, and he proves that even the greatest victory plants the seeds for 1,000 future defeats. Marka Ragnos ruled the Sith Empire at its zenith, a century before the Great Hyperspace War. He was a living god to the Sith species. A hybrid of Sith and human, He was a titan of dark side power, a master of Sith sorcery and swordcraft. His reign wasn't marked by constant war, but by a terrible, absolute stability. He held the feuding Sith Lords in check through sheer, overwhelming might. Under Ragnos, the Sith Empire was unified, powerful, and terrifying. He was the peak, the mountaintop. You don't rule in a bureaucratic sense. You embody. You hold court in a temple on Korriban, surrounded by the ossified remains of your predecessors. The other Sith Lords, powerful, monstrous beings like Horak Mul or the ambitious young Nagasado and Ludo Kresh, come before you not as counselors, but as supplicants. They kneel. Your daily life is a performance of absolute dominance. You settle disputes by annihilating one side. You reward loyalty with a nod. You crush ambition before it can even fully form. There is no challenge, because you are beyond challenge. You have won the game so completely that the game has stopped. This sounds like the ultimate Sith fantasy, right? Absolute power, absolute control. No rivals, only subjects. But here is the hidden, rotting core of it: stagnation. Ragnos' power was so total, it froze the Sith Empire in time. There was no progress, only maintenance. No growth, only the preservation of his glory. The Sith, a culture built on passion, ambition, and conflict, were forced into a state of unnatural peace under his iron fist. All their violent energy was turned inward, simmering as resentment, jealousy, and plots that went nowhere, because everyone was too afraid to act. The Empire became a gorgeous, gilded cage. Ragnos didn't lead it forward, he sat on the lid. This is the first reason why you couldn't last a day as Marka Ragnos at his peak. Because ultimate power is ultimately boring. You have no peers, no equals to test yourself against, no goals left to achieve. You spend your days listening to the petty squabbles of insects you could vaporize, presiding over rituals you invented, hearing your own glory recited back to you. The dark side feeds on passion, on struggle, on the fire of conflict. What does it feed on when you've extinguished all other fires? It begins to feed on itself. Your existence becomes a monument. And living in a monument is a cold, lonely business. You are the curator of your own museum, and you are the only exhibit. Then Ragnos dies, of old age perhaps, or simply because even a Titan's time ends. And his death isn't just a passing. It's a seismic event. His funeral is a gathering of every Sith Lord, a moment of terrifying uncertainty. For a century, he was the dam holding back a river of ambition. Now the dam is gone, and this is where his legacy truly becomes a poison. He leaves an ideal, a phantom standard of perfection. The next generation, Nagasado and Ludo Kresh, they fight in the long shadow of Ragnos. They are both, in their own ways, trying to be him, to reclaim that lost zenith. But they are lesser men. Sado is a brilliant illusionist and schemer, but lacks Ragnos' raw, commanding presence. Kresh is a traditionalist brute, clinging to the old ways without the power to enforce them. Their civil war, which erupts immediately after Ragnos' funeral, it's a desperate, pathetic scramble to put on a dead man's shoes, which are 10 sizes too big. And then, in a moment of pure dark side theatre, the ghost of Marka Ragnos appears. His spirit intervenes at his own tomb to stop Sado and Kresh from fighting, not to choose a successor, but to warn them. His words are a prophecy that their infighting will destroy the Sith Empire, but even in death, he doesn't solve the problem. He just asserts his dominance one last time, then fades away, leaving the children to break his toys. This is the final, devastating lesson of Ragnos. His greatest success, forging a unified, fearsome empire, was so personal, so tied to his own unmatched might, that it was inherently unsustainable. He didn't build a system that could survive him. He was the system. And when he died, the system collapsed into the chaotic, suicidal infighting that defined the Sith for the next 1,000 years. His legacy wasn't enduring power. It was an impossible benchmark that made every successor look and feel like a failure, driving them to increasingly desperate and catastrophic acts to try and measure up. To be Marka Ragnos is to be the sun around which a solar system orbits. And when the sun goes out, every planet goes flying into the dark, crashing into each other. Your day would be spent as the gravitational center of a frozen, admiring, and terrified court, feeling the slow, cold creep of cosmic boredom, knowing that your very perfection is a death sentence for everything you've built. You are the author of your own legend, and the opening chapter is so good it ruins the rest of the book. He is the proof that the Sith can't handle true, lasting success. Their philosophy is one of endless striving, of burning passion. The moment they actually achieve total uncontested victory, the fuel runs out. The fire dies, leaving only cold ash and the memory of warmth. If you think being the unchallenged Dark Lord sounds like paradise, Ragnos shows you the reality. It's a beautiful, empty throne at the top of a mountain, so high the air is too thin to breathe, and everyone waiting below is just sharpening their knives, dreaming of a height they can never reach, and blaming you for it. Among the ancient Dark Lords, few names echo with the pure, undiluted dread of martial prowess like Tulak Hord. He wasn't known as a great statesman or a sorcerer king. His title was Lord of Hate, and his legacy was written in the bones of Jedi and the lost techniques of lightsaber combat. He is the Sith as the ultimate swordsman, the dark side made manifest not in a lightning storm, but in a single, perfect killing stroke. And his story tells you that even the most perfect weapon, when its wielder is gone, is just a museum piece, a lesson in a dead language. What we know of Tulak Hord comes from fragments, legends, and the awed terror of later Sith. He lived in the ancient golden age of the Sith Empire, a time of seemingly limitless dark side power. He was a master of lightsaber combat, a duelist so skilled that the very techniques he pioneered became myths. He didn't just fight Jedi, he hunted them. He collected their lightsabers as trophies. His prowess was so absolute that it transcended skill and entered the realm of dark side art. He composed symphonies of violence, each duel a masterpiece of precision and cruelty. You do not hold court, you do not pass scrolls. You wake in a chamber likely adorned with trophies, the hilts of Jedi lightsabers, banners of conquered foes. Your morning ritual is not meditation in the passive sense, it is a moving meditation of forms. You practice with a lightsaber, drilling techniques that would make a later era Jedi Master weep with their complexity and lethality. Your connection to the dark side is not a broad, cosmic thing. It is focused through the lens of combat. Your hatred, your will to dominate, is honed to a razor's edge, as precise as the blade you wield. Your duties are simple. You are the Empire's ultimate champion. When a Jedi of legendary skill appears, they send for you. When a rebellion needs to be crushed, not by an army, but by a demonstration of terrifying individual might, you are the demonstration. You travel not with a vast entourage, but perhaps with a cadre of elite Sith warriors who are less guards and more apprentices hoping to catch a glimpse of your technique. You walk onto battlefields, not as a general, but as a force of nature. Your battles are less wars and more personal contests of will made physical. You don't seek to rule systems, you seek to prove over and over that there is no match for your blade. Your satisfaction is not in conquest, but in the moment of the kill, the ultimate proof of your art. This sounds like the pure, honest Sith path, doesn't it? No politics, no lies, just strength against strength, skill against skill. The dark side used not to manipulate, but to perfect the act of dominance. But here is the hollow core of Tulak Hord's existence, and why you could not live it. First, the tyranny of mastery. When you are the undisputed, best at the only thing that gives your life meaning, what is left? Every duel becomes a foregone conclusion. Every opponent is inferior. You are trapped in a cycle of repeating your own perfection, with no one to challenge you to greater heights. The art stagnates because the artist has no peers. The hunger for a worthy opponent becomes a dull, perpetual ache. You are the master of a dance where you are the only one who knows the steps, and everyone else just stumbles until they fall. Second, the legacy of dust. Tulak Hord's power was intensely personal. It resided in his arm, his eye, his connection to the dark side in the heat of combat. Such a legacy is almost impossible to pass on. You can't teach that level of instinct, that fusion of fury and technique, in a scroll. Later Sith, like Darth Bane's apprentice, Darth Zana, would speak his name with reverence, and Sith warriors would quest to find his tomb on Korriban, hoping to learn his secrets. But what did they find? A ghost? A holocron with lessons? No, they found a tomb. A silent, dark chamber, holding dust, and perhaps a forgotten artifact. His knowledge died with him. His legacy is a name that inspires fear but teaches nothing. He became a benchmark, not a teacher, a monument to a kind of power that cannot be inherited, only remembered. Third, the pointlessness of the perfect kill. What did all his victories build? Not an empire that lasted, not a philosophy that shaped centuries. He built a pile of trophies. His entire monumental life and power were expended in a series of magnificent, personal victories that, in the grand scope of Sith history, led to nothing. He was a spectacular symptom of the Sith Empire's warrior culture, not its architect. He was the sharpest tooth in the beast's mouth, and when the beast died, the tooth was buried with it. To live a day as Tulak Hord is to live in a world that has shrunk to the length of your lightsaber blade. Your universe is the next opponent, the next flawless execution of technique. You have no friends, only disciples who fear you. You have no politics, only the trivial distractions of lesser beings. Your existence is a repetitive loop of proving what everyone already knows, that you are the best. And when there are no more Jedi Masters to test you, you are left alone in your hall of trophies, with nothing to do but polish the relics of your own fading relevance. He is the Sith as the ultimate athlete who wins every championship, only to retire and realize no one remembers the scores, just the faded headlines. His power was real, immense, and utterly without a future. He represents the dead end of martial pride. The dark side used purely for combat makes you a devastating event, not a lasting force. You are a hurricane, awesome, terrifying, and then gone, leaving only stories of the damage in your wake. If you think the Sith path is about becoming the greatest warrior, the most feared duelist, Tulak Hord is your endpoint. You will be a legend in a tomb, a name whispered by acolytes seeking a power they can never truly grasp, because it died with you. Your life's work will be a collection of forgotten jewels, and your eternity will be spent as an answer to a trivia question. Who was the greatest Sith duelist? A title that feeds no one, rules nothing, and builds no legacy but an echo in a dark cave on a dead world. He is the proof that even the most supreme personal power, if it builds nothing beyond itself, is just a very beautiful, very deadly dead end. We have walked through a gallery of monsters, tyrants, and lost souls. We've seen the peaks of Sith power and the bottomless pits of their despair. But to understand the root of this cursed tree, you have to go back to the seed, the first Dark Lord of the Sith. Ajunta Pall was a Jedi Master, no less, in the early formative centuries of the Order. This was after the Force Wars of Tython, when the Jedi were still defining what they were, and Pall had a radical, dangerous idea that the dark side wasn't a pit to be avoided, but a tool to be used. He and his followers, other disaffected Jedi, who would become known as the Dark Jedi, believed that embracing their passions, their emotions, their anger and ambition would make them stronger, more effective protectors. They didn't want to be evil. They wanted to be practical. They wanted to win. This is the original and most seductive Sith lie. It's not power for its own sake at the beginning. It's power for a reason, to protect, to bring order, to cut through the hesitation and dogma of the Jedi Council. Pall led his followers in a rebellion, the 100-Year Darkness. They fought a war against their own brothers and sisters, and they lost. Banished from known space, Pall and his Dark Jedi fled in a ragged fleet. They were exiles, wounded, furious, and lost. And then they found it, the planet Korriban, a world inhabited by a proud, powerful, and violently force-sensitive species, the Sith. To the native Sith people, these Jedi exiles, with their command of the Force and their advanced technology, weren't refugees, they were gods. Pall and his followers didn't conquer the Sith through battle. They subjugated them through awe. They became the ruling caste. The Dark Jedi, mixing their teachings with the native Sith's innate dark side leanings and potent bloodlines, became something new. They became the Lords of the Sith. Ajunta Pall became the first Dark Lord. You stand on Korriban, amid red sands and towering pyramids. You are weary to your bones, haunted by the faces of Jedi you once called friends, whom you killed or who died by your hand. You are surrounded by followers who look to you for guidance in this savage new world, and by a native population that prostrates itself before you. You have won a kingdom. But what have you lost? Your day is not spent in glorious conquest. It is spent in the hard, dirty work of founding a civilization from scratch, while wrestling with a galaxy of regret. You must establish rules, hierarchy, a code for your new Sith order. You are writing the first draft of a tragedy. Every decision you make, to encourage passion over peace, strength over wisdom, power over compassion, sets a precedent that will echo for thousands of years, twisting into horrors you can't yet imagine. You aren't building a palace, you are laying the first stone of a prison that will eventually hold millions. And the weight of your personal failure is crushing. You led your friends to ruin. You betrayed everything you were taught. You are a traitor twice over, to the Jedi and to the light within yourself. The dark side power you wield feels less like a triumph and more like a fever, a hot, sickly energy that keeps you moving but can't heal the wound in your soul. The native Sith may worship you, but you cannot understand them, and they cannot understand the civil war raging inside you. You are the most powerful being on the planet, and you are utterly, profoundly alone. This is the true hell of Ajunta Pall. He achieved the Sith dream. He founded the Empire. He became a God King, and it meant nothing against the tide of his own remorse. The legends say he became obsessed with forging a sword, a dark side artifact of immense power, his greatest creation. It wasn't a tool for conquest, it was a distraction, a project to pour his anguish and his lingering pride into, something to focus on besides the hollow victory of his life. His own blade, the instrument of his will, became his only companion. When he died, his spirit could not find rest. While later Sith like Exar Kun or Freedon Nadd clung to existence out of ambition, Ajunta Pall's ghost was trapped by regret. His tomb on Korriban became his purgatory. For millennia, his spirit lingered, not as a malevolent ruler, but as a sorrowful, haunting presence. He was the original sin, forever pondering his mistake. This is why you could not last a day as Ajunta Pall, because his story strips away all the later Sith glamour and gets to the raw, human truth at the core of the fall. Your day would be spent in the crushing paradox of supreme power and supreme failure. You rule a people you see as beneath you, in a kingdom that feels like a desert exile, haunted by the ghosts of the family you betrayed, the Jedi, and writing a code of conduct that you know, in your heart, is a blueprint for damnation.